One. We're live. What is going on, everybody? Saturday, April 23rd, we have a 4-game playoff slate as the first round trucks on. I am your host, Joe Metz, joined by my good friend. Typically, we're behind the microphone. Today, we are behind the glass. Adam Pfeifer. Adam, how you doing?
Feels weird. This has to be the first time I've done a show at this time of the day, I think. Usually
It's kind of nice.
Yeah, usually it's 6 to 7. So like I just got done doing some football work. I looked up, it was like 12:45. I was like, oh, I got to get ready for the playoff stream. Like this slate is interesting because I feel like all the slates I've been on, at least, there's been like one quote unquote stud or like Ja and Towns. But like on this slate, we have Luka, we have Ja, we have the Brooklyn players, we have Tatum, we have Embiid. Like it's pretty loaded.
Yeah, and every single person up here is underpriced. Every single one.
Yep.
So we'll obviously get into our roster construction priorities and things like that. Before we get started, if you are watching on YouTube, use promo code FTN TV. Gets you 15% off of every package, whether that's on Bets Daily or Fantasy. If you want to opt for the monthly route as opposed to the annual, it will give you 15% off of every single month. So you don't have to worry about it being a top-loaded first month value and then tapers off. It gives you the 15% off of every month. So, Adam, let's dive in here. We have 4 games. Let me pull up the order that the games are in here. Tipping off at 2 p.m. Eastern time, we have the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors as the first game. Philly favored by 3 on the road. Implied total of 213 on the nose. Scotty Barnes is still listed as, I think he's listed as a game time decision now, was doubtful coming into the day. Joel Embiid is active, but I believe he's dealing with a right thumb sprain. If I believe that's what they said.
He's got a torn ligament.
Or a torn ligament in his thumb, yeah. So let's start at the top with Embiid and the Sixers. Curious what direction you're going with this team with Embiid. I don't want to say hampered, but not 100% on a slate where there are a ton of other viable spend ups.
Yeah, like I think Embiid's fine. He's played through a lot of stuff and still been really good throughout his career. I'd be more like worried if it was like a back or something like that. Sure. Embiid, obviously the ceiling is, especially at the center position, just massively higher, especially with the way Towns is playing, than any other center on the slate. Like if you get to Embiid, like obviously Toronto just doesn't have anybody to guard him, right? I don't think many teams, if any teams, do, but especially Toronto, where they play 10 minutes of Kem Birch and doesn't get it done, and then Precious Achiuwa and whoever, Siakam, like they're just too undersized. The weird thing is, and these might be famous last words, Joe, I kind of like Tobias Harris. I kind of like Tobias Harris, man.
Words. I don't know if those words have ever come out of my mouth, but
look, he's obviously playing massive minutes. Like the 47 last game was overtime, sure. And, enhanced, but still would have played 42. The shot volume was weird the last 2 games, but I still think he's probably going to settle in between like 12 and 15 shots. And for me, it just comes down to the matchup for him. Like the minutes are massive. He's doubled in 2 straight games. He's still just 6,600. It's not like playing Tobias in the regular season when he's 7K and this team's fully healthy. It's a little bit different.
Right.
And I know it's a loaded slate, so I'm not saying it's a priority play, but I'm just saying that Tobias Harris, through the first 3 games of the series, is averaging 9.3 spot-up points per game, second most in the playoffs. It's like 44%. Like he's like since James Harden's been there, he's just done way more spot-up shooting, which leads to not likely to see as many like 18 to 20 field goal attempts per game, but he's getting better looks. And Tobias Harris, like back when he was with the Clippers, he was actually a pretty good spot up shooter. And then when he went to Philly, he didn't spot up as much because he was, when they had Ben Simmons and not Jimmy Butler, Tobias was the number 2 on this team. Now he's probably the number 4 when you include Tyrese Maxey. So he's just spotting up and getting good looks. And Toronto this season, over the course of the season, they were like second most spotted points per game allowed in basketball. So far in these playoffs, they're allowing the most spotted points per game in basketball and a 45% field goal percentage. So with Embiid getting double teamed and everything like that, it's going to lead to Tobias getting good looks. So I actually think he's my second favorite player from this team. And again, famous last words, but
is Embiid your first favorite player on this team?
He is. I just think Maxey's Maxey has the upside games, but then there's also games where he kind of, because the peripherals aren't ever massive. Like if he doesn't score 20 plus real points, he can tend to be underwhelming. He's still, playing massive minutes too. But I think, and if you get to Harden, I mean, Harden's, fair price at 9,100.
Harden's like 80. I think he's 8,700 on FanDuel or something like that.
Harden. Yeah, it's
just a dumb.
Harden's floor is going to be massive. It's just we haven't seen consistent 60-point games from Harden, and on a slate where you have Tatum and Kyrie and Durant and Ja, it's tougher for me to get to Harden. Whereas Embiid at center, even on a loaded slate, you love Embiid at center, but we'll talk about it. Towns has just been awful in this series outside of the first game. And then you have Siakam, Gobert, Horford. Those are the next centers up after Embiid.
Right. I agree. And I typically hate Tobias Harris.
I mean, shocker, I don't think the Philly contingent's going to love him, but I'm just saying,
I get it.
He sets up well in this spot.
I think the same reasons you like Harris is why I do like Maxey. Obviously a bit more expensive, but we've seen with the increase in floor spacing since Harden's been there, you and I have talked about it on the podcast and on stream, the amount of open threes Maxey's getting, the fact that they can't double a player if they're going off because of who else is on this offense. I like Maxey a lot, and I actually would prefer both him and Harris over Embiid today, which it might come off shocking, but with the other spend ups and their price points and based on roster construction, I feel much more comfortable pairing. My favorite pairing right now is Moran and Jason Tatum. I like pairing them quite a bit more than I do like playing Embiid and then going down to like a Fred VanVleet or an Anthony Edwards or a Donovan Mitchell, because you can even sneak in Donovan Mitchell alongside those other two and still be okay from a value standpoint. It's a little harder to do that with Embiid. So what about the value pieces on this team? Because we saw Georges Niang get back in the rotation with Matisse Thybulle unavailable in Toronto. Do you think we see another 20 plus minutes from Niang? Do you think we see another 35 plus from Danny Green? Because if so, both of them become pretty interesting at their respective price points.
Yeah, I think if I were to choose, I would just go with Danny Green because he's starting and the minutes are going to be more consistent. Niang's obviously going to get a bump in minutes with Matisse Thybulle inactive, but we also have to remember James Harden fouled out before overtime and Niang played the entire 5 minutes of overtime. So you take that away and he's around 17 minutes, which on this slate, I don't think 17's enough. So I would lean Danny Green in that scenario. But again, Danny Green, if he's not hitting his corner threes or his open threes, he could legitimately give you 12 fantasy points. He's been good the last two games. Green,
the last
seven rebounds is an absolute outlier, but
correct. Aside from that, though, he's been awful, god awful for this team. So I think I am in just about lockstep with you on my priority for Philly. I would just flip. For me, it's Maxey over Harris.
It's totally fair. I mean, Maxey's been better, obviously.
I think Maxey will also come in more popular as well. We know that. So let's flip to the Toronto side of this game. Scotty Barnes came into the day doubtful. They're listing him as a game time decision, but I'd like to think he's probably doubtful. Start at the top. What are you doing with this Toronto rotation?
I mean, I know you like Precious Achiuwa today. If Barnes plays, because we got the report that if he plays, he won't be limited. Does that take you off Precious?
It does.
Right. And I think it has to some extent because they can still just move Siakam to the 5, play whoever. Chris Boucher can play some 5.
Their best lineup is Siakam at the 5.
Right. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. If Scotty Barnes is out again, I think Precious Achiuwa stands out as a great play. He gave them, down the stretch, he had a couple missed free throws and turnovers, which really cost them. But prior to that, he was really good in that game. 4,300 would play, 32 minutes, I would say, 30 to 32 minutes. Siakam, the interesting thing with Siakam is, and you don't get fantasy points for it, but Tobias Harris's defense on Siakam has been really good this series. Now, I still think Siakam wins that matchup more often than not.
Sure.
And elimination game at home, he might be on the bench for 2 minutes. Like I don't see a scenario where he plays less than 42 minutes in this game. So 8,600, we know there's a ceiling there. He's struggled a bit from the field, obviously, when you have Embiid, being able to come out to the free throw line against him. But still, if you're just looking for minutes, and because center isn't exactly you have talent we'll talk about, but like Siakam's power forward center, he's going to play 42 minutes. I don't think it's crazy to get there. Van Vliet, same scenario.
I'm really torn.
He's going to play so many minutes, but
you have to think he regresses to the mean at some point. The only thing holding him back has been his poor efficiency, which we've seen it, at times in the season. But I mean, we're looking at like Gary Trent 2.0 from an efficiency standpoint.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
that range at point guard is different now with Luka playing.
Scotty Barnes won Rookie of the Year. Oh. We're clipping this. You okay?
It's terrible. Let's move on.
All right, we're moving on, but let me write down the timestamp here. 11:12 clip for social. Cool.
No way.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I mean,
he's gonna play. He's gonna play now, right?
That he has to. Oh, wow, I did not expect that. It was a bit of a curveball. So my issue with Fred VanVleet is the efficiency, but at the same time, like you have to think that's probably going to take people off of him.
Yeah, and what I was going to say before you ruin my day, that range at point guard is different now with Luka expected to play because Brunson and Dinwiddie are kind of in that range. They're a little bit cheaper, but at least Brunson is, and then Dinwiddie's all the way down, low 7K range.
Or something, yeah.
But that, Luka might be limited, but that is enough to kind of take you off of Brunson and Dinwiddie, and that leads to less options in that 7K range at point guard, where Fred VanVleet is playing 40 minutes without question.
Sure. I'm leaning towards really liking Fred VanVleet. My thing right now is trying to decipher who I want my third high mid-tier low spend up option to be alongside John Morant and Jason Tatum. It's been between Fred VanVleet and Donovan Mitchell, which I think from a raw projection standpoint, they're not really in the same realm, but I think there could be a lot of leverage to be had. What about Gary Trent dirt cheap? OG Anunoby up to 6'7".
OG's had the best individual matchup each series.
Correct. But 5'2" for Gary Trent. We know the ceiling he has. He flashed a little bit of it last game. But we also have seen the games where, he shoots 6 of 20. But, being at home in an elimination game, you have to think he plays 40 minutes, right? They need their best players on the court at almost all times.
Yeah, so if Barnes is out, Trent might be, my second favorite play from this team, just given that price range. We didn't talk about that. What if Scotty Barnes is in? They said he won't be limited.
I mean, Scotty Barnes would assuming he's not limited.
I mean, he's the rookie of the year, so he's
you get the rookie of the year at 6'5".
You get the rookie of the year at 6'5".
But I think Scotty Barnes is a phenomenal play at 6'5", and nobody is going to play him. So let's quick, I don't like necessarily always ranking in a vacuum, but if Scotty Barnes is in, how would you rank your priorities as to who you want to get to on Toronto? Because for me, at least, given the nature of this game, I want at least one Raptor in my lineup.
So if Barnes is in, I think Barnes would have to be number one for me. How do you limit him in an elimination game?
You can't. Understanding the two-way effect he has on this
Not
team,
to mention understanding who the coach of this team is, too. I would rank it Barnes, Siakam, Trent. That's tough, though, because, really? Come on, George.
That is hilarious.
That's good. That's really good. How would you rank them?
That's what I'm looking at. I think for me, if Barnes is in and we get word he's not limited, I think I would be Barnes 1 on both sides. He's 6'3" on FanDuel. I would be Barnes 1. I get really nervous saying this, but Trent 2 because of the price. And then I think I go Van Vliet, Siakam. But
yeah,
it's hard to rank them there, but then say like that is to no discredit towards Siakam and Van Vliet as good plays. I think they are very strong plays, but because of the fact that all of these Raptors starters, all 5 are probably going to play 40 plus minutes, I do opt for the cheaper options.
And if Barnes plays, we're just completely off Precious and Boucher, right?
Yeah. I think you have to be. I think I'd be more off of Boucher than I'd be more off of Precious. Yeah. I think you would still see 22 to 26.
You can still see some lineups where it's like Fred, OG, Barnes, Siakam, Precious, but Trent obviously, if Trent's struggling, I guess would be the best.
Right. If Scotty's in, there is a chance that Precious and Boucher might be the only 2 players we see off the bench.
If Scotty Barnes plays and the Raptors come back down 3-0, I will concede he's the Rookie of the Year. And that's it.
Is that the only way you will admit it?
No, like I obviously prefer Mobley, but Scotty Barnes is awesome. We talked about it like so many times on the podcast. Scotty Barnes is awesome. This entire rookie class is awesome. So
let's change pace here a little bit and move on to the next game on the slate. Dallas and Utah. Utah 5.5-point home favorites, 212.5-point total. There was a report that came out right before we hopped on from Woj that Luka, there is increasing optimism he will suit up in a limited capacity for game 4. I know this is a DFS show, but I added my favorite play to the bets tracker on FTN Bets. I'll give it away for free. It's Dallas +6 on Caesar Sportsbook. Like whether Luka, and this is without Luka being ruled in. If Luka plays or not, like Dallas is clearly showing they're capable of staying in the game. They've lost game 1 by 6. They won games 2 and 3. I think this Utah team is very fluky. We've seen it for 3 years. But if Luka's declared in, like this line is going to move. So Dallas +6 on Caesar Sportsbook is my favorite bet of the day. So if Luka's in, what are you doing with him?
He's going to be on a minutes limit. And this is one where I firmly believe it.
I do too.
The question is, it's the playoffs. So what is that limit?
I think the limit here is probably 30 to 32. I think in the regular season we would have seen 24 to 26.
Right, exactly.
You can't I think actually, you know what? They're up 2-1. They're returning home.
I mean, I talked to Zach a lot about this series. Like he thought after the 1-1 tie, after that first game where the Dallas Mavericks won, he thought Luka wouldn't play till game 4. So like, not that like Zach works for the team or anything, but like I kind of agreed with him. So like, I think they could easily say, okay, we're kind of playing with house money, right? Like we won 2 games without one of the 5 best players in basketball. Let's see how he feels. It also might come down to game script. Like if they're down 10 to start the 4th quarter or something, we might see Luka play more. So like it. Like, would you like? I think it sounds like you prefer Ja over Luka, right? It's hard not to.
I do.
Yeah. So like that's where I'm at too. But like, 32 minutes of Luka could still be 60 fantasy points, especially with how
32 minutes of Luka could be the top leading scorer on the entire slate.
And especially with how the Jazz have defended the pick and roll. They just drop down and they leave Brunson and Dinwiddie wide open to shoot, and Luka is better than both players combined. Like it's. Their defense is that team's terrible. Like they are a regular
future New York Knicks Jalen Brunson. You forgot to say,
you should have traded for him at the deadline. Now they're gonna have to pay him.
I know. Well, now they're gonna have to pay him
anyway.
And they'll trade for Donovan Mitchell, and then they'll get the 6th seed in the East. I'm operating as if Luka's in. That's when I push the projections through this morning. Let me double check what I put Luka at. I have him starting and playing 31 minutes on the nose, which I have 36 minutes of Brunson starting alongside of him, and I have 29 minutes of Spencer Dinwiddie off the bench. So what does this do for you to Brunson and Dinwiddie? Because obviously at their elevated price points, it makes them a little harder to play. I think it makes Dinwiddie harder to play than Brunson, though.
Yeah, because Brunson will still start. I'm really not on either player, assuming Luka's in, which is what it sounds like. The only other question for this team, like Reggie Bullock is still going to play massive minutes, and he probably benefits playing with Luka, but we know there's not a huge ceiling there. but he is playing every minute on the floor.
Yeah, I think he played 45 last game, 44.
Yeah. He's not cheap, he's not expensive. So like he's kind of like a last player in, and I'm fine with it. And then the best 3-point shooter at center in basketball, not Karl-Anthony Towns, Maxi Kleber.
Yeah, 8 of 10 2 days ago. So
4 or 5 last game.
So my question here, I think similar to your sentiment that Bullock benefits from Luka on the court, Kleber would as well from a shot standpoint. But I also think Dwight Powell benefits more playing alongside Luka in the pick and roll.
And Josh brought up a good point in chat asking if we think Dallas plays small, which we've seen teams go small against Utah for the last couple postseasons now.
Because Rudy Gobert fucking sucks. That's why. But yes, like, oh God, here comes your boy in chat. Kruger's all caps, Scotty Barnes ROI. Awful, wow. So I guess like I want to decipher what's going to happen with this front court, because I think if we are running with the fact that Dwight Powell could maybe get back to 25 to 26 minutes at 3-7, I think he becomes interesting. But
I agree.
I don't know what the odds. I think he'll still start. Like I have the starters as Brunson, Luka, Bullock, DFS, and Powell.
Scotty Barnes is available to play.
All right, I'll update projections while I update projections, talk about like the ancillary pieces from Dallas and then lead into Utah while I get this updated.
Yeah, I think you can take a shot on Powell because he will benefit playing with Luka in the pick and roll. It's obviously risky. And then, we mentioned Bullock. For Utah, I mean, Donovan Mitchell's been in your articles for like 7 straight days
every day.
now.
I mean, it's like 2 of the last 3 years he's led the entire NBA in the postseason usage rate. The year he didn't lead in usage rate, he led in points per game. So
right, and he's at what, 37% through this postseason?
37 point something, and he's like 21 shots in game 3 is his lowest output this year. He's shooting the ball horribly, like absolutely god-awful.
And imagine if he shoots, he doesn't have to shoot like amazing, just shoot like kind of like the median. He's doing like his assist rate's high too. It's not just his usage rate. I talked about that the other day. So yeah, you have to like Donovan Mitchell. I mean, Mike Conley has been playing like
whoa, look at the screen.
Hey, Zach.
Guys, I just wanted to swing by for a second.
I
don't have any sort of.
He's standing.
I don't have any sort of Pokemon.
That's how you know this is going to be legit.
Oh man, I'm sitting here working and I see that news come across and I'm headed down to the store to grab some pitchforks if you guys want any. And then I'm marching straight to Canada to Kruger's house. We're going to take that Rookie of the Year back and give it to Evan Mobley. Sorry to interrupt.
Hey, you're welcome to stay on if you want.
I can't, man. I got some work to do. But
all right, buddy.
Oh God, congrats to Scotty. I mean,
Scotty's dope.
Yeah, and he deserves it. So does Evan Mobley. Obviously, our vote was for Mobley, but
sure.
Oh man, Adam, I'm sorry, buddy.
I do think Scotty Barnes being in. I don't think Malachi Flynn sees the floor.
No,
I don't think. I think the 3 off the bench will be Precious Boucher and 1 of Thad Young or Kem Birch. I'm leaning Thad Young for his versatility, but they're not going further than 8 deep in this game. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah. And Scotty Barnes better have 60 tonight. Just leave it at that.
I'm not playing her, so. Well, Zach, appreciate you hopping in. I like the new view. I like this angle.
Yeah, maybe I'll do a standing show tomorrow. I don't know. I know Eddie's on, so we'll probably go 2 hours tomorrow. So maybe no standing tomorrow. Maybe me and Adam on Tuesday.
Or maybe you go like the first hour sitting and then you stand for the second hour.
Yeah, why not? All right, guys, I'll get out of here. Sorry for interrupting. See you guys.
So I'm going to push these projections through quick, but with the update, just to give you a heads up, I have both Van Vliet and Trent for 41 minutes. Siakam, it's projecting conservatively for 38. It'll be higher. Barnes for 39. OG for 36. Scotty Barnes, 39.1 fantasy points. Pascal, 45. Trent, 32. Van Vliet, 39. OG, 34. Like this, you need a Raptor in your lineup, in my opinion.
Yep, and Herm's talking about it in chat. Like, they might honestly just go 7 players.
No, I agree with Herm. Like, I wholeheartedly agree. I have 8 minutes of Thad Young off the bench, but I'm contemplating just completely axing that. Okay, so back to Utah.
Conley's
Donovan
fine.
Conley's fine, but like
we got used to him pplaying like 28 to 30 minutes in the regular season, but now he's playing like upwards of 35.
So my question for you, like, there is no discounting the role that Donovan Mitchell is playing right now. At 8,700, how do you view him as a core play? Because I think like my only issue with Mitchell, if his inefficiency holds up, he'll get 30 raw points and like 10 total peripherals. Is that really enough at 8,700? Like, I think it's favorable, but if you get very slate game,
it's very slate specific because the last couple slates, Mitchell's been off slates with the Brooklyn games, I feel like, and he hasn't been on the same slates as Tatum or some of these players. But I still think he's underpriced given the massive role he has, and it's not like he's a bad player in terms of peripherals. He's just not like like some of the elites. But I don't know if I'd call him a priority. He's just a very, very, very strong play. Also, did you see the stat from StatMuse? I think it was yesterday that players are shooting 11% higher than their field goal percentage when guarded by Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I did. Well, he's exhausting all of his energy trying to keep his team afloat right now in the offensive end.
How many passes does he have to Gobert in this series? I know it was one last game or the other game.
It was one. I think it was 1 through 2 games. I think.
That team, even if they win the series,
they have to blow it up.
Yeah. You keep Mitchell, and then you rebuild.
One's taking Gobert's contract on. There's absolutely no way.
Cleveland might take them and just have all the centers.
Run Mobley at the 3.
Yeah, maybe he'll win Rookie of the Year then.
Yeah, maybe he will. Maybe he'll win Most Improved Player.
Yeah, I mean Garland's not winning that either. So Cleveland's going to go over because Love's not winning 6-man.
That's true.
Fun times.
So what about Rudy Gobert? Like 7-4.
I mean, he's fine. Like he's going to get. Last game was obviously a dud, but he's going to get double-digit rebounds. I say this all the time with Rudy Gobert. Double-digit rebounds are pretty much a lock. The question is he going to have a 10-point double-double or a 20-point double-double?
But he can also, the thing is, his range of outcomes is like 6 points, 10 boards, 2 blocks, all the way up to like 20 points, 25 rebounds, 5 blocks.
Yeah.
There's a ton of variance here. I don't think you need it. He feels more like a floor play than a ceiling
play. Right. I'm not really high on him. And like, be honest with you, give me the over 2,000 in savings and just play Brandon Clark.
There's no way I'm fading Brandon Clark.
Right.
There's
we'll talk about it.
No way. Yeah. Which I will say he was in my article last.
Josh is asking about Eric Pascal if we think this game goes small as a
Pascal saw what? I think 10 or 12 minutes last game.
Played 10 minutes. He's min price.
I'd rather play Georges Niang if you're looking towards min price. I think there's a higher minute ceiling for Niang.
Steelers fan also asks Dragic and Donovan Mitchell or Jaylen Brown and Claxton. So a lot of players we haven't talked about other than Mitchell.
You know what? Quick, do you have anything else on the Jazz? Because we can just move on to talk about that question. We can move on to Boston.
Let's go to the next game.
Okay. We'll head to the next game. It is the Celtics and the Nets in Brooklyn. This series only 2 games in 2-0. Brooklyn is a 3-point home favorite. 222.5 point total. I want at least one spend up in this game. And I said this last game, and I was wrong. So I'll say it again. Kevin Durant has to break out. He has to at some point. This is one of the top 10 players ever. This is arguably one of the best scorers of all time.
It's not arguable.
Well, there's Giannis. That's the only argument. And yes, Giannis for sure. Him and Evan Mobley. But I don't see how he gets held in check for this long. He's not my favorite spend up, but in between him and Kyrie, I much prefer Durant.
This whole series is so interesting because we are seeing anytime, and this is why, different tangent, this is why I think this team desperately misses Joe Harris. Anytime Durant or Kyrie have the ball, Boston's sending 2 defenders, which is why last game you saw Bruce Brown get the first 9 points of the game, and they're just saying, all right, if Bruce Brown beats us, so be it. Right. But I can't see Durant 3 straight awful games, especially with this game. Like, if they lose this game, it's over. Like, they're done.
Yeah.
We know there's a game coming where Durant drops 40. And it's not like he's been getting
Yeah.
like Tatum's guarded him very well, but a lot of his pull-up jump shots, he's just kind of just missed. Like he's had good looks. So I'm expecting, especially at home, I'm expecting Durant to have his best game of the series pretty easily. It can't be too difficult to do that. I mean, he's got 12 turnovers in 2 games. I think a lot of that is due to those double teams, but like 4 of 17, 9 of 24. You just don't see that with Kevin Durant. Like these, I know the playoffs, things are different, things change, matchups change, teams make adjustments, but like those are still outliers for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we kind of saw it last game. Durant had that ice cold first half. He rattled off, he had a good first half, ice cold second half. In the first half, he rattled off.
He's getting to he got to the line
10 or
20
12
times last game too. That saved him.
So that's the thing. The thing is, if you combine the fact that he is getting the free throw line, you just up the efficiency to a 55-ish%. Like he's going to go nuclear. So I like Kevin Durant more in the betting market than I do DFS, but I think you can play him at 10-2. I do still prefer Tatum for $900 less, which is ridiculous.
Jason Tatum is so good.
No, I know. It makes no sense. It makes no sense why he's so cheap. So let's talk about the rest of these Nets players, Kyrie, and then we'll talk about like Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton, Goran, and Seth Curry are probably the other ones people are going to look at. So what are your thoughts on Kyrie, and then dive into the value plays?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer Ja Morant over Kyrie, but I mean, Kyrie had a down game last game. It's just weird to see like Brooklyn staying in these games, and they've had an awful game from Kyrie and 2 awful games from Kevin Durant. So like, if both players just play good, they can easily get back in the series. So like Kyrie's going to play 40 minutes. He's obviously has massive upside. I just prefer Ja Morant. And then the rest of his team, like Bruce Brown is obviously also going to play a ton of minutes. Not expecting him to do what he did last game, but like the point remains, like they're just leaving him open, and they're forcing Bruce Brown and some of these other players off this team to beat them. And 6'3" is kind of expensive for Bruce Brown too. At the same time, like
it's a $600 price decrease though than what he was.
It's true. If you get to Bruce Brown, I get it. Like I have no problem with it. He's going to have opportunities in this game. I just don't know if he's going to be as efficient as he was last game.
Right. I agree. What about Goran at 4-1 and then Claxton? Goran's actually a really, really interesting play for me.
I think Brooklyn needs to play him more, to be honest.
He's the 3rd best scorer on this team right now.
Yeah,
I guess Bruce Brown.
When he's on the floor, he is shooting. He's taken 25 shots in 46 minutes of playing time through 2 games. Like,
yeah,
his usage rate is high.
I have him in my single entry right now. I think I don't want to say a no-brainer value play, but like he's got to be one of the strongest values on the slate.
Yeah, in that question, it was Goran and Mitchell,
or Claxton and Jaylen Brown. I prefer Goran and Mitchell.
So do I. What about Claxton too, though? Because we're gonna have Robert Williams play today, most likely.
Right.
And that makes
my issue with Claxton is that he's 4'6". I just don't know how much I love that.
Brooklyn was already getting dominated on the glass without Robert Williams. Oh man, Robert.
Yeah,
that does make the matchup overall worse for Brooklyn.
Wait. Toronto's bringing Scotty Barnes off the bench,
so they're starting
Birch.
I mean, Birch is going to play 10 minutes.
Right. What the fuck are they doing? Why? I don't understand it.
That is interesting. Like, I'm not playing Kem Birch. I'm not interested in Kem Birch.
No, I'm advising against Kem Birch as well. They listed Scotty as available, right?
Yeah, it said he's available to play.
Is he going to be scratched?
It's honestly like it's entirely possible.
I'm a little worried that he's going to be. That makes no sense. I'm not out on this first. Someone said things seem messy. I'm out on this first game. I wouldn't be out on this first game, to be honest. But
yeah, like Herm's pointing out in chat, like if Barnes, like we already pretty much knew that Barnes wasn't fully healthy. It just came down to the magnitude of this game and being down 3-0. But the fact that he's not even starting, despite being able to play like
I still have
absolutely
him for
confirms he's not
34
healthy.
minutes, but like,
Yeah, like Herm's right on. Like he's probably just gonna, if he gets any playing time, like he shouldn't be on the floor. He just is kind of fighting through it.
I don't think he's gonna play.
If he does though, like still though, it's not like
Man.
he's still 6,500. Like
Right. I'm lowering his minutes though. I'm probably gonna put him at about 30. But like, I don't even know how to project this at all.
mm-hmm. Because he could play 30,
right.
he could play 15, he could play
40.
like he could he could play like 7
fuck?
and then his ankle's hurting and then he's done, or he could just not come off the bench at all.
Right. So let me update this. So bear with me. So why don't we talk on the rest of Boston outside of Jason Tatum?
Yeah, what do you think? I like Jaylen Brown. I think he's a little bit too cheap too at 8-2. He's playing massive minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like? Does Robert Williams playing take you off of Al Horford? I guess he's not.
I don't think Robert Williams starts.
Yeah, and Robert Williams isn't confirmed
in.
in either. I don't think he starts either. He's not confirmed in. He will be on a minutes restriction, I believe, if he plays to around 20.
2025. Yeah, 2025. I have him 420 off the bench. I still think they start Tice.
Does that take you off Al Horford at almost 7K? Al Horford's been awesome.
I don't think it does take me off of Al Horford. I don't think I'll get there to single entry, but I would want at least one if I'm running 3 lineups. Because like Boston's at a point like this is a must win for the Nets, but like this is also nearly a must win for the Celtics too. Like they're going into Brooklyn. You need to steal one at home.
And like
they're gonna play.
And
Al
like
Horford
Ben Simmons is coming back game 4. The questions about how he fits and everything will remain to be seen, but Ben Simmons is still a very good basketball player. So Brooklyn wins this game, then they get Ben Simmons in game 4. Like momentum could definitely shift. So Boston needs to win this game, obviously, too.
Right. I agree. So what about Marcus Smart, Derek White? I guess you can talk about Tice too, because I currently have Tice projected to start with Robert Williams off the bench. We could see that swap. I don't know.
I would rather like Tice did play 31 minutes last game. I'd probably lean not looking to Tice as long as Robert Williams plays. If Robert Williams just like they get down to a game time decision and he's out, Tice is still fine. And Marcus Smart, I think, is perfectly in play too. Not crazy about Derek White.
Never mind. He's in there more for defensive purposes, if anything.
Yeah,
which isn't a bad. It's more of an impact from a real basketball standpoint. Obviously, a hindrance in DFS. Okay, so anyone else on this Boston team that you think is like Grant Williams will probably take a pretty big step back from a minute standpoint.
And he was also just like he hit like 3 threes in a row in the second quarter, and they kind of just ran with him. Played over 30 minutes, but if Robert Williams plays 20 to 25, that's somebody that's taking power forward minutes away. We know Tatum plays power forward for them, so yeah, I probably wouldn't go to Grant Williams if Robert Williams is active. I'm just excited to watch Robert Williams again. He made my all defensive second team when we did the podcast. He is a difference maker.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's move on quick to the final game of the night. If you look at the graphic, oh wait, whoops, hold on. Let me pull this graphic. So the last game of the night, the nightcap, Memphis 3-point road favorites in Minnesota after I think they ended the game like a 51-12 run last game.
That was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. They blew 2 different 20-point leads, and the second one was a 21-0 run where Chris Finch just watched it. Like you had this
he didn't call a single timeout.
No, and you had this incredibly young team. Like I know Towns and Russell are, they're veterans, but they don't have immense playoff experience. And then you have Anthony Edwards and Vanderbilt and McDaniels and so many young players. You have Beverly, obviously, but it's like you expected them to kind of just fix it on their own, and it just didn't happen. Right. It was so bizarre. Right. I don't think Minnesota recovers from that loss. Like they're not winning the series.
No, I don't think they are either. I placed a bet before the series that Memphis would win in less than 7, and I feel very confident about that.
Didn't feel good about it in the first half on whatever day it was.
No, I didn't. So let's start at the top with John Moran. He's a stone cold core play, locked with a core play for me in single entry. Like we're seeing John Moran at a point where like we have through 4 playoff games, really, if you count, or excuse me, 3 playoff games, all 3, we haven't really seen the volume we saw in the regular season. He hasn't attempted more than 18 shots. he hasn't been particularly efficient. Shooting over
They're still running a
50%
deep rotation in the playoffs.
and they're still like Xavier Tillman's still playing. He's been one peripheral shy in of a triple-double 2 games ago. Got a triple-double last game. Like, he's doing literally everything for this team.
He's also playing like the entire first quarter in every game, which is awesome. Like, it gets him off to such a good start. And I thought, like, watching the game, Ja didn't play well last game, and he still had a triple-double. Like, and the 40 minutes is encouraging because we had seen him play like closer to 35. Obviously, the one game was a blowout. But if we're getting 40 minutes from Ja as opposed to 35 to 38, those 3 extra minutes potentially are massive, especially when you're on a slate where you have Luka Doncic back. You have, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. So, I love Ja as well. And then,
I mean, Dylan Brooks right now is projected to be the highest owned play on the
FanDuel,
slate,
like,
if he's in. And
both
he's also
sites
just
he's
too cheap. He's just way too cheap.
What's Bane on FanDuel? Because the last 2 games, him and Brooks have been.
I think Bane is 5,600.
I mean, that's too. Like, they've been. Him and Brooks have been so cheap on FanDuel this series.
Right. Desmond Bane is 6K flat, still too cheap.
Right. So, honestly, like, we're gonna see a lot of people on obviously Brandon Clark, and then Dylan Brooks.
Which rightfully so. I think Brandon Clark is one of the best players in the slate. Like, that's chalk. I'm certainly willing to eat. He, like, Steven Adams probably won't play in this game. It happened last game after he got phased out in game 1 or in game 1. I just don't like Brandon Clark. Just for some reason matches up so much better with this Minnesota team because Cat is probably away from the rim more than he's in the paint. Like,
he's just like, that's the other thing with Cat. When Minnesota was blowing that lead, they obviously needed to stop the bleeding, get a bucket, and Cat just wasn't posting up. Like, he would try to a couple times, and then just nothing happened.
I don't think Cat has what it takes to be the guy. Like, I think he's sharp and soft. Like, and in his play, like, I mean, look at how frustrated he gets mentally. When he was in foul trouble and he, like, lost his temper like 3 times. Like, I just don't think he has what it takes in the playoffs. And, like, I think Anthony Edwards is the best player on their team. And I don't think it's super close. I think Anthony Edwards is one of the most underrated defenders in basketball. Like, he's been stellar in the postseason, like, if you're counting the play-in as well. So I think of Minnesota, like, Anthony Edwards is still my favorite option on this team. I just don't think I'm going to get there in one lineup.
Mine's Beverly.
Beverly's
kind of Ben Beverly for, like, obviously Towns. Like, he's been bad the last 2 games. It's absolutely dreadful. He's also under 9K, and if he can stay out of foul trouble, which is a massive if, is going to play 40 minutes. And he will be, on this slate especially, nowhere near as popular as he had been.
So would you play Cat or Donovan Mitchell straight up? Because they're only $200 apart.
I would play Donovan Mitchell.
I'm leaning Cat straight up.
And you love Donovan Mitchell.
I do, but, like, it's the 8-9. Like, if there's a time to buy Cat, it's now, right?
Right. And it's not like Cat's been bad, but it's mostly been just because, like you said, he's been kind of getting in foul trouble, getting frustrated. But, like, if Cat plays the minutes, there's no denying he can go for 30 points, 12 rebounds, and a couple assists. Like, it's a very interesting spot for him. Beverly's, like I said, Beverly's still my favorite from this team. Like, I just prefer the massive discount from him and D'Angelo Russell and Edwards. Obviously, the ceilings favor Edwards and Russell, but Beverly's just been very solid.
And we have a good question regarding Beverly. Beverly or Gary Trent? One has I think Beverly's floor is higher.
I would lean Beverly, and here's why. Okay. The last couple of games especially it's correlated with Towns not really being a factor. We've seen a lot of this offense just have Beverly go right at Ja Morant defensively. And I think that's a matchup they're fine with. Like, Ja's not a good defender. Beverly will add more peripherals. Obviously, if Gary Trent hits from 3, his ceiling is like 45. But I think Beverly, like you said, Beverly's floor is just substantially higher. And there's still the X factor of if Barnes plays and how many minutes he plays. So I think Beverly's been one of the most underrated players in fantasy during these playoffs.
So do I. I agree 100%. So what about? So I see George has a cat graphic loaded up. I love it. I'm tweeting that after this. So what about the Jared Vanderbilt versus Jaden McDaniels scenario because I feel like I'm on the wrong end of it every game.
Yeah, I mean, literally before this last game, I was like, okay, if Steven Adams is playing less, that means it might lean to less minutes from Vanderbilt because he doesn't really space the floor as much as McDaniels. And then Vanderbilt comes out, literally was the best player on the Timberwolves last game, like without even question. Now, the popularity is probably going to switch, right? It's going to be more so on Vanderbilt, less so on McDaniels. But at the same time, like I don't think Adams is going to play. But we've seen them in that last game very comfortable giving Vanderbilt minutes. And it's not like he got priced up, really. He's 3,700. And as I've talked about Vanderbilt a ton, if he plays the minutes, he's a spectacular rebounder. So he can still, and does he play, what did he play, 32 last game? Does he play 32 again? I don't know, but he could still play 25 and smash at 3,700.
Right. Luka officially upgraded to probable.
We also didn't mention this with Luka, and it's kind of dumb to even like not acknowledge this. Already through his career, he's been one of the best playoff performers in the NBA. So like,
yeah,
Luka in the playoffs is just different.
Twice about that. Yeah, talk to Zach Graham about that. Yeah, and there it is. So it's really going to come down to what we think that minutes restriction is.
I think 28 to 32, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Anyone else in this Memphis Minnesota game? I guess if Dillon Brooks is out, where are you going? Do you prefer Zaire Williams or Kyle Anderson?
Definitely slow-mo. Zaire Williams would become interesting. They're not afraid to play him in these playoffs, but slow-mo obviously.
He'll shoot. I think maybe more than slow-mo when he's on the court.
Yeah, slow-mo's peripherals will be much better though. We did get a question, Steelers fan, Mike Conley or Dillon Brooks?
Conley.
I think I agree. And then Doug asked Seth Curry or Dragic?
Dragic. I
think
that's
I agree
also
as well.
Seth Curry's cheap.
He is.
But I prefer Goran. So let's get to some just general questions now and like lineup construction ideas. So like with your general lineup construction, how are you leaning about approaching this slate? Like, are you looking at like two spend ups, whether it's like for me, it's Moran and Jason Tatum, but you can comfortably fit Karl Anthony Towns or Donovan Mitchell in there as well. So I think that's what I'm going to try and do, depending on who I can get with this. Like my last guy in right now is either Jared Vanderbilt or Jaden McDaniel, so I'm not like happy about it. But how are you looking at like building if you have a single entry?
No, I kind of like your kind of thought process, like being able to get Tatum and Ja Morant, and like again, like we talk about it, like mid-tier plays alone, like Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks, Gary Trent. Like there are a lot of mid-range plays where you say it's not just like the 9K and above players. It's a lot of the mid-range plays you can say they're too cheap too. Like Desmond Bane, I don't get why he doesn't get as much love as he should, but he doesn't.
Right. I agree. I don't think if you look at the Grizzlies, I don't think any of these like outside of Brandon Clark and John Moran, I think everyone is getting underappreciated on this team. Like the
we even talk about Triple J, who I just like.
Yeah, well, why don't we talk about Jaren Jackson? Because like if this guy can keep his hands to himself, he's a defensive player of the year. But he can't. It's
not even like I've watched every like minute of this series, and it's not even because it's been a lot of like shooting fouls. It's a lot of like off loose ball fouls and like after rebounds. And some of them I think are bad calls, like the way this the series being officiated is kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, like if you told me right now Jaren Jackson Jr. was playing 30 minutes at 6K, he would be probably a smash play. But there's the chance he plays 21 like last game. And they aren't afraid to go to Xavier Tillman and obviously Brandon Clark and slow-mo if Jaren Jackson Jr. does get into foul trouble.
Right. So do you think your thoughts on Jaren Jackson change if Dillon Brooks is ruled out?
Not really, because it's not going to impact his style of play. You know what I mean? Like he's still gonna be at risk of foul trouble, which is really what it comes down to for Jaren Jackson Jr. It's not like Jaren Jackson Jr. only plays 20 minutes a game and also gets into foul trouble. He usually plays upwards of 32, but foul trouble limits him to 24, 25, 23 more often than not.
Right.
Conley or Pat Bev? I'm going Pat Bev.
Ooh.
It's close. I don't think either has like a 45-point ceiling, but if one did, it would be Conley. But
I think I lean Beverly though. I think Beverly has a higher floor. That's really close. So that's like splitting hairs.
They also So I forgot it's not even that much of a price difference, if at all. Conley's 5'5", Beverly's 5'4".
So here's a question. One guy we didn't talk about, Jordan Clarkson, 4'5". Would you rather play Jordan Clarkson if you're fading Donovan Mitchell than play one of those guys?
If you're fading Mitchell, it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll lean Conley in that case because for some reason I was thinking Conley was like $6K and above, but he's literally $100 more than Beverly. Yeah, but I still love Beverly.
Yeah, so do I. That is a really good grouping to chat about, though. That's tough. I think the thing is, like, I think you can play Conley alongside Mitchell if you are playing Mitchell. But I don't love playing either of them alongside Jordan Clarkson. Let me see what questions we may have. Someone say Herm saying he would definitely not play Birch. Yeah, I'm not playing Birch either. I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole. There's absolutely no way. Like we see when he started last game, played 10 minutes, 14 minutes, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not worth it. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. So how are you ranking your spend up priority?
It's tough, right? Because like Embiid's not 100%. Luka's going to be limited. I think I'm with you, man. Like Durant, Tatum, and Ja Morant.
Durant, Tatum, Ja Morant. I think for me, I
didn't put it in order either. By the way, I would probably lean.
I'll put it in order. I think I'm Tatum, Morant, and then
I'm the opposite.
I'm Morant. I think I'm Morant, Tatum, Durant.
That's me.
Durant.
That's me. Yeah.
We have two questions: Kyrie and Dragic, or Mitchell and Pat Bev. Mitchell and Pat Bev. For me.
Yeah. Triple H wants you to. Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah. I think he's a good play. I don't think he's a great play. That's a good question. Like, we're not going to sit here and deny Harden's ceiling by any means. Like, it is one of the highest on the slate.
I don't think it is.
Do you not?
Like, define one of the highest.
I guess I shouldn't say one of the highest. Now I look at it, I'd take who'd you rather play? Tatum or Towns or Harden? That's kind of tough. I think I lean Towns.
If I knew he was going to play 40 minutes, I would definitely lean Towns. Like Harden since joining this team, we've seen like 2 like massive ceiling games. I don't think he has like I don't want to say he doesn't have it because he does, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher for him to get like 65 fantasy points. Whereas Tatum, we've seen it. Durant, Kyrie can get there. Luka can get there in 30 minutes. Ja can obviously get there. So that doesn't mean, like you said, like, I think Harden's still a good play. I just think we need to change how we view him among the like elite in fantasy. He's still very good, but I don't know if we're seeing 70-point games from him anymore.
That's fair. And then Maxey, Tobias, and Curry, or Beverly, OG, and Brooks. That's tough because Brooks is questionable.
Yeah, and I don't know if I love Maxey and Tobias together.
I don't either. I don't either. I would try and rework that in general, to be honest.
I mean, if Brooks plays, we like him. Obviously, he's cheap.
Yeah, I agree.
This Scotty Barnes situation is so crazy.
I know. I'm trying to
literally
don't what's
like.
Happen.
He could play 5, 15, 25, 30, or 40 minutes, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, same.
It's insane.
So contrary to what we did with or similar to what we did with the spend up options, how would you rank your values on this slate? Let's say like sub 4,500.
So that means we can't include Brandon Clark.
No, because Brandon Clark would be number 1.
Yeah. So you said sub 4,500?
Yeah.
I would say,
or 4,500 and below. Sorry. So like Clarkson and below, essentially.
Yeah. Slow-mo, assuming he starts again. Well, he started last game too, though.
He did. Yeah, he did.
I think slow-mo's got to be up there. I don't love the ceiling, but Danny Green, 4,100, going to start again and play 30 minutes.
I think Dragic is up there for me.
Dragic. Vanderbilt, I think, still needs to be in consideration.
Sure. I mean, Vanderbilt at 3,700 is really, really, really cheap.
Yeah. I think those would be the three.
And those are my three as well, for what it's worth. I have all three of them in my lineup, actually. In my lineup, I have four players from that. I have two Grizzlies and two Timberwolves. None of them Cat. Thies at Tice at 4,600 or Vanderbilt at 4,700. This is FanDuel. I think you have to go Vanderbilt for the upside.
Yeah, I think it's more interesting if Robert Williams just doesn't play, but it sounds like he's going to play and play limited minutes. That's enough for me to go Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think, I guess regarding Vanderbilt, are you worried? Do you think his minutes were more a product of Cat's foul trouble? Or do you not think so? Because he also had 5 fouls in the game. And the game before when Cat was in foul trouble, he only played 9 minutes. So this is legitimately just an unpredictable situation, right?
Yeah, I think with the way he was playing, though, he was going to be in line for more minutes anyway. But yeah, like Towns, he just keeps, like Towns played the entire first quarter in that game and then came in about halfway through the second, picked up 2 fouls, and then Vanderbilt came in the middle of that stint, but Vanderbilt also played almost the entire third quarter, and Towns only played about 6 minutes of the third quarter.
Because of the foul. That's because of the foul trouble.
Yeah, that entire team is so interesting outside of like the guards, really.
Right. So let's see. Hardy at Vandy for more minutes as he usually guards the opposing team's center. No, I actually think no Steven Adams helps Jared Vanderbilt.
Well, I thought it hurt him last game, and that's why I wasn't interested, and then it didn't matter because he still played the minutes and was. I just don't think we know, right? Like I agree with Josh that no Steven Adams I thought would have hurt him because the Timberwolves don't want Jaren Jackson Jr. able to just roam the paint and defend shots, so they would have McDaniels on the floor and have him at the 3-point line, and Vanderbilt's not a 3-point shooter, but that didn't matter last game. And also, if Jaren Jackson Jr. keeps getting so many fouls, he's not on the floor anyway. And then you're seeing more Tillman and more Clark to where Vanderbilt can play against those players.
I do have a DM, a 3v3. Let me pull it up here. They are Jordan Clarkson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Slow-Mo. Or Jared Vanderbilt, Donovan Mitchell, and Pat Beverly.
Read that again. Sorry, I was reading chat.
Clarkson, Slow-Mo, and Towns. Or Mitchell, Vanderbilt, and Beverly.
That's really tough. Close. I did say I would play Mitchell over Towns, so I have to go Mitchell's side.
Yeah, that is very, very tough. I think I lean this second as well, not only because I have those guys in my single entry, but I just don't know. Like, if we're looking at unpredictable outcomes, I think Clarkson is kind of up there.
Yeah. Steelers fan asks Slow-Mo and Brandon Clark, Gary Trent. So Slow-Mo, Clark, and Trent, or Beverly, Precious, and Clarkson. I'm going first side.
Same.
Should be an interesting day of basketball.
I know. I'm looking at what Herm said. I think he's got a point about Vanderbilt. Yeah, about Naz Reid. Naz Reid sucks.
He gave him good minutes in game 2. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing Jared Vanderbilt. I have 4 players from that late game. I think to Herm's point, it has the highest total by quite a wide margin. And it allows you the most flexibility to swap around. So
and they're both been top 5 in pace.
Right. And I have no Raptors in my lineup right now. That's the one thing I don't love.
That game starts in about 10 minutes. I am very interested to see Scotty Barnes' role.
My big hang-up has been Beverly or Gary Trent. And I chose Beverly.
I don't disagree.
I'm nervous about it. But, man, I just don't like – if Gary Trent's not shooting well –
yeah, if he gets off to like a 1 for 7 start, that's when you know it's probably not going to happen for Gary Trent.
which I'd argue that's far more likely than a 7, like a 4 of 7 start. Yeah, I think Herman's a good point. So that'll wrap us up. We have 4 games of playoff hoops on tap. Adam, condolences. You will see yourself in a clip on Twitter shortly.
It was funny. Listen,
it was funny.
Scotty Barnes is awesome.
Scotty Barnes is awesome. As a reminder, Scotty Barnes, the NBA Kia Rookie of the Year. Shout out to George behind the glass for the array of graphics. Remember this one when you guys watch the late game tonight. For Adam, for Joe, for George as well. As always,
let's get these beans.